Today we are joined by a good friend of mine that I met in university. She has been with me through a lot of different eras, and especially in the adulting era in the last couple of years. Bonnie, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks.
Why don't
Hi guys.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Bonnie, and I'm a music teacher. I do not like the word adulting. Actually.
Okay. Sorry, I just started.
It's just a word for me.
Oh, okay.
One thing you have to know about me is that I'm a huge fungi fan.
She is.
So that's the times where I had to stop Josh in the middle of a deep talk or walk, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, we had to take a picture of this mushroom."
It's like some of the deepest conversations, talking about our heart to heart, and then Bonnie just disappears because she found a fun guy.
Into the bushes.
I haven't found my fun guy yet, though.
Oh, what's that?
Sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Let's get back to topic. Yeah. So Bonnie and I have been friends since university. We actually studied music together, and Bonnie wanted me to describe how we met. So let me paint this picture for y'all. Imagine first year university, you got all these nerves, you're ready for your first week of classes, you have your papers, your pencils, your binders, all ready to go. Now just imagine just the normal typical closeted Asian boy just goes into a classroom, sits down, and is just getting ready to start her first history class. And up comes just another Asian girl. She just sits beside you, nothing much, you don't really say much. But then during the class, this random Asian girl is like pokes you, and it's like, "Excuse me, do you have a pencil?" And the closeted Asian boy thinks to himself, "Bitch, this is the first day of class. You don't have a pencil."
I don't know what happened. I just forgot.
And that's how our friendship started.
Can I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. So after the pencil thing, we started talking.
Yeah.
And getting to know each other better. And it was after class, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go back to my dorm now. So I guess I'll see you.
Mm-hmm.
And then Josh was like, "Oh, like okay, like I'll come with you." And I was like, okay. So this guy that I just met wants to come with me back to my dorm. And I'm internally, I was like, oh my God. So we got to my building.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, well, this is my building. And you're like, okay, let's go up. And I was like, oh my God, this guy I just met wants to come upstairs into my dorm.
Yeah.
You like got out of the elevator, slowly walked to my room. Okay, this is it. And you just stood there, and I was like, okay, I guess he's coming into my room. And this entire time that we're just socializing, just small talk, you were sitting like on my bed, and I was sitting at my desk. So I made sure that there was 2 Bible lengths apart from us. 2
Bible lengths, 2 Jesuses.
And this entire conversation, I'm like, oh my God. How do I bring up the "I have a boyfriend" topic?
I think you did at some point during that hangout, and I was like, okay.
I know, like just no. I remember like you had like no reaction. You're like, oh, okay, and I was like, okay.
To those listening, that is not my proudest moment that I've done in my life. There are things called boundaries, and I clearly did not see them.
I think you're just being friendly, so it didn't like occur. It didn't occur to you, yeah. But at the same time, I don't know. I think I was trying my best to be very chill, and you didn't do anything. It was just like a nice conversation. I think you just want to make friends. I
think I don't recommend anyone to do that. But I think I just felt like we were just so chill, and then she didn't say anything. So I didn't do anything, but also that's not a good excuse. So please do not follow in my footsteps. But then after that, Bonnie and I became good friends, just going through the music program together. We had a lot of ups and downs. We almost failed the class together.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, music theory 201.
Yep. That was one of the hardest classes I've ever had to take.
Yeah, and we both were like, our other friend who was part of our trio, she was fine. We
just mooched off of her.
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, let's study together.
Yeah.
We're gonna work through this together.
And we did.
Yeah.
I ended up with the B. I remember that.
I don't remember getting a B. I think I got a C plus.
But it's not about grades. It's not about grades. But we made it through, and yeah, I would say like, Bonnie was probably one of my closest friends in university, because at that time I didn't make a lot of friends. I think I talked about it in my podcast trailer and other episodes. Bonnie was one of my closest friends. We basically studied together all the time. We hung out. We went to fellowship together. We went to choir together. So we did a lot of things together. I would scare her every day, or try to scare her every day when she's in the practice room. I would just slam myself onto the door while she's practicing. And she would try to do it to me, but it wouldn't work.
No, not at all.
Do you remember that one time where you tried to scare me and I scared you back?
No, I actually have no recollection.
You were hiding, like, in like the music practice room hallway, like the one where, like, the first hallway. Yeah. I was going down the hallway and you were just like hiding on against the wall, and you were like, ah, and I'm like, ah, I was like, ah, like just to like say it back, and then you got scared.
Oh, I got surprised. Okay, I remember that now.
But yeah, that's kind of where Bonnie and I kind of got close to each other. I think it was just like, schooling, classmates, but then also church friends and all those things. And I bring it up because it kind of puts like an idea of where Bonnie was in my life, like in terms of eras, because I had shared my testimony with you when you were back home during winter break. I remember that, right?
I think I just came back from summer. It was summer, yeah. And then you picked me up from the ferry, and you dropped me off at home. It was kind of late at night. Yeah. And then for some reason we were just sharing about our summer and things that we've gone through. And then you started opening up a lot more. And I think that...
Did I send you my testimony?
You did.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
You did. So maybe it was that summer after I heard your testimony.
Because what I remember was winter, because you wanted to go to the testimony sharing, but then you couldn't make it because you went back home.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I remember.
Later.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I remember. I remember because I shared it with you. Do you remember your reaction?
I remember listening to it in my room, and you just sent... I think you didn't say anything. You just sent...
This is my testimony.
A document.
Listen to it.
Yeah, and I was like, okay. It took me... I don't think I listened to it right away. I had to wait for a time when I was kind of alone, and I remember putting on my headphones and listening to it, and yeah, I was just quiet the entire time, and very like moved by your testimony. Oh my god, I feel like crying.
Oh no.
Cheers. Yeah, just it was really hard to hear everything that you've been through from like the very beginning to like up to you're still experiencing it, like during the time that I met you and we got closer, and I just had no idea. So yeah, I just felt like really saddened that like I wasn't even sure if I was even there for you during that part. Yeah, because I had no idea what was going on. It always seemed like a lighthearted thing, or like, oh, we're just practicing today, or we're just studying, nothing like too serious. So I got to know you better.
It's interesting because I like when I think back on high school, because you didn't know me back then, like in high school. So Bonnie didn't really know this persona of Josh in high school, and in generally it was very different than I was in university. But because I was close to you, I felt like I didn't have to hide as much as, for example, like my music ed people. I wasn't really close to anybody. Like I was very quiet in front of everybody else.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so I think, I don't know, for you to hear that I was still suffering during university, I can imagine that it's not easy as a friend to be like, oh, he's just been hiding all this, like even though, you know, he seems fine at school, right?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah, because I knew that you weren't too close to the music ed people, but you spend a lot of time with them in the same classes.
Yeah.
And then even like with like our trio, I don't know. Maybe there's a part of me that kind of knew there's something going on. Like you're holding back, but on the outside there was like a mass of like everything was always okay and very lighthearted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I shared this like testimony with Bonnie, I remember you came back from a break, if I remember correctly, and that's when we used to go out to like late night McDonald's and like chat and stuff. And excuse me, during that time, because it was a new chapter for me, right? It was a very different time because I finally came out, and you were in that processing time of my first time sharing this to basically important people in my life, to me having all these thoughts and questions and crushes and stuff that I'm sure you remember who I was crushing on, and also going to therapy. Right.
Yeah.
And so you kind of saw that transition period of time. So do you remember anything from those couple of months or that year after I shared with you? Like,
I had to think about it. I think
okay.
Sorry.
No, it's a long time ago.
I know, it was a long time ago. I remember you telling me things like during the time that you liked people and like getting closer with them, but after telling them how you really felt about them, it was a really difficult time. And I think what was hard for me to watch was like I felt like I couldn't really help you or offer any advice because like I don't know what it's like to be in your shoes, to like you kind of face like rejection, but at the same time you're still close with these people, and these are people that still really care about you so deeply. It's just that you're sitting through that hurt and having to like spend the time to get over it. So I think I felt like a lot of the time I didn't have the words to say, but to sit with you and eat McDonald's together. Yeah.
Not the healthiest choice, but
yeah.
comfort food.
Yeah.
I remember, because even though I came out in 2015 to my fellowship and to you. So 2016 was the new year. And even though I came out, I was still processing a lot of stuff. So like I was still struggling with the idea of attraction and liking people, and like, is that okay? Is this like right for me to feel these things? And I definitely remember having conversations with you about it. I remember, like, for example, I like this person, and then me talking to you about this person, and me just like literally questioning the fact that it was okay to like this person, or the fact that it wasn't okay for me to even have feelings at all. Like I still was in that processing thing, right? Because I just came out. I didn't have everything together. I just knew that I needed to share something that I was going through. And actually, I think around that same time, I remember you had some relationship things too that was going on, and we were there for each other, like in terms of like trying to keep each other level-headed, but also like realistic. Like, do you know what I mean? I remember we connected a lot during those couple months, because we were both kind of figuring out these things together at the same time. But yeah, when I think back, like I still remember the place you lived at. Like I know it's near one of our good friends' house, and I remember just fondly just buying McDonald's and just like sitting there and just
having these long
conversations, like hours long.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like I helped you through anything, or do you feel like you often needed just someone to just listen to your?
I think it did help. It did help because in a way, you didn't know me. You didn't know the past me, right? So there wasn't this like, I mean, we knew each other for by that time, what, 2-3 years by then. But the fact that I was able to just talk, just basically like no filter, say whatever was on my mind, was very helpful. But like one thing that I learned when I was thinking back on, you know, like even though I came out, I didn't really talk to a lot of my really close friends about it, like that I grew up with, because I didn't want those relationships to change. That makes sense?
Are you saying like, because I was wondering about this thing, because you did like come out in 2015,
Yeah.
but I felt like certain periods of time you had to feel like you had to come out again and again and again. So like, even though you did share it with a group of people, there was always like another group of people to share with, like during different periods or different friendships. Yeah. What was that like for you? Like having to share that over and over again, or like...
It was really annoying. It was annoying because it's like coming out is not easy. So like I talked to this with my friend Maria from one of the episodes in the past, but it's draining because I had to always mentally prepare myself to like build up this courage to say this thing that I shouldn't need to say. But I knew that it was a special part of me that I wish I wanted this person to know, you know? And so like, we'll talk a little more about this later, but even when I moved to Vancouver, you saw this whole process of me like struggling because I wanted to share with my friends here, but I was scared, right? I was so worried about it, right? So it wasn't easy to always keep doing that, like because I always felt like that's probably why I became so introverted, because I didn't want to make new friends because I didn't want to have to keep saying
too.
it.
That
it was a
too.
huge mixture of stuff that didn't stack well together. But yeah, so I would say generally it was so tiring because I'm like, okay, time to act again. That's kind of what I felt like,
I guess like there was a time when you like felt, I don't know, like you are yourself, but you feel there's a part of you that's like reserved, and then after you like tell people your story, you feel a bit more relieved, and you're a little bit more, maybe you can correct me, like you feel more like yourself. And then with another group of people you still feel reserved because you don't know that part of you yet.
So like for example, when I hang out with you amongst this group back then, it was like, cool, Bonnie knows, but no one else does, so I'm just going to be more reserved. You know what I mean? Versus, let's say if we were to hang out with people from, you know, Victoria, like let's say you were with us, I would just been myself. And you know, I actually didn't really recognize how much of a toll that made on me until later on, like until probably pandemic, right? Like that's kind of when I was like, wow, I spent so much energy acting and that's why I'm so exhausted.
Where do you think that fear comes from? Because I feel like so many people would like, it's, I don't know, in my opinion, I feel like so much people like love you and so that's why I'm confused.
It's because of stories I've heard of rejection, I think, but also the rejection I felt in high school, right? So all that rejection, and especially when you're growing up and you're used to that idea or that fear, like it's like when you have a fear of, like let's say you perform something at a young age and then you screw up and then you completely get stage fright, whatever, and then it stays with you for a while until you can somehow overcome it, right? But then in high school, it was just rejection, but no reconciliation. It was literally just the rejection, and then that's it. And then I never had the time to have those conversations with those people.
So you're saying like it's kind of a little bit more rooted in like your past. Yeah.
Like that fear of this might happen again with these new people, that they might.
So
just
even in
reject
university, you still felt the same thing, and then even after.
And so that was really tough because, like for me, I think what's tough is that in university, you already know, I took so many courses and I worked 2 jobs, and did so much church stuff because I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to get to know people because I was scared. And it's really sad because when I think about it now, I would have rather done my university time now in this period of my life because I'm so much more free. And I feel like I would be ready to have those relationships and conversations. And also as a musician, because you already knew I was always scared of performing and putting myself out there. And I only did that until like the last couple of years, my last 2 years of school. And then you saw me in like my vocal jazz stuff and whatever. But I literally, I say this because I'm just being honest, that I feel like I didn't deserve to graduate in music just because I actually didn't really push myself because I was so scared of failure at that time in my life that I didn't learn as much as I should have. And I know that people always tell me, Josh, you're very, very talented, you're a great singer. I know, but like you always compare yourself, right, to the other people. And for me, I was not at that caliber.
Do you think that was layered with you, like not feeling like you could fully be yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that I was scared to explore myself. I was scared to explore my capability as a singer and musician. And like I said, I think if I did it now, it would be completely different. I think I would have really succeeded in that realm because like, when I think back on my life, I do enjoy performing. Like I do enjoy it, but I was in a really bad mental space, like in university. So if I could rewind time, I would do it like with this mindset now. I think I would have been so much better.
Yeah, I want to say that like during university, I always looked up to you in your singing abilities. Yeah, but I feel like even now you're even more confident.
Right, and
always a good singer, but it's coming out more. Yeah.
But like the thing is, like for me, I haven't had training since university, right? But for me as a singer, I can feel a difference because I'm more confident.
I noticed that difference.
Right? And that says a lot. I'm going to say that to whoever's listening because your general happiness and joy and contentment with yourself changes a lot about you. Yeah. And I didn't even really recognize that until the different kind of milestones in my life of healing and processing, right? Because like for me, like to like now, you know, I always say I'm generally a confident singer, but to be like, oh wow, I can do that. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think I could, you know. But it just changed a lot, and that's why for me it's like I honestly believe that God wants us to be genuine, and God wants us to find who we are because it does change what he has given us and the blessings he's given us as gifts and talents, right? And for me it's like, wow, like if I had this mental space and better, you know, contentment with myself back then, I think I would have soared even more. But I was just, you know, my vision was blocked by all this fear and hatred, self-hatred, that I couldn't see that side of me. Yeah,
no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, Bonnie here. Josh is very sick and currently doesn't have a voice, so he asked his amazing friend, me, to fill in. We hope you've been enjoying this episode so far with Josh's best friend, me, Bonnie. And if you would like to support this podcast, you can follow it on Instagram and YouTube at The Open Closet Media. If you would like to support Josh, you can find him on Instagram at JMKPoon, or you can follow me on 2 Point Banana Slug.
I want to go back a little bit to...
I want to go back too.
Wait, where do you want to go back?
Yeah, you can go first.
I just want to talk about I want to talk about like when I moved here.
Okay.
But what do you want to talk about? Is it before that?
It was before that.
Okay,
when
so
I was talking about like you going through different stages of having to come out to different people.
Okay, yeah.
Because I feel like you always had close friends.
Yes.
Right. And like, so do you feel even closer to the people you are close to now, like after coming out over, like having to come out again, or do you feel like, even though they knew your, how do I phrase this?
Okay, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say 2015.
Okay.
So I first came out to my church community and my close friends.
Mm-hmm.
So your question is, did I feel closer to them when I came out?
Like even closer to them. Because I feel like there's a part of you that was like always yourself when you're around your closest friends.
Yeah.
I've seen you like in that stage. So like you're always close, but then even after you come out, you feel like even closer to them.
So this is something
I feel like Josh doesn't really change, but maybe it's just like the feeling internally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what I think. So 2015, when I came out to my friends, like I said this a little bit earlier, but during that time, I think I was still so much processing and therapy that I didn't feel like it changed much. It didn't feel like it changed much because I think I also was being very safe with it. And even though I shared it, I didn't really talk about it. Like I shared it and then just that's it. And I think it's because it was a defense mechanism, a control mechanism maybe, that I could leave these friendships as good as they were. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And but then I think as like the years went on and I processed a lot and like all these things, I think I did get closer to my friends, let's say in 2015, because I was finally ready to talk about stuff, you know? Give us 1 second. I'd like to thank the Learn household for sponsoring this. You're watching. We are currently sitting on in Bonnie's house's room's floor.
That was very, very long.
Using many lamps for the much lighting as possible. Okay, sorry, let's go back. So I think like when I first shared it, it didn't change much of my relationships. I think it did change people's perspective and perception of me, that they kind of finally understood why I was a certain way and why I did things a certain way, you know. But I wouldn't say until I think it was only until now, like literally this year, where I felt like my friendships from like high school have changed.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Why is that?
Because I'm finally ready to talk about a lot of things that
the open closet.
Because I like, for example, many of them didn't know, you know, my relationship with my mom, for example. Like I don't. That's right. I don't share super personal about it. I know I shared it on like this podcast and the rice wash and stuff, but like actually, I don't know if you saw I think you saw the Instagram story, but like for example, my mom and I had a huge fight like the other week, and a lot of my friends didn't really like they did know that, you know, my mom and I are quite similar. Sometimes we clash, but I don't think they really understood how deeply rooted that pain was, right? And so when I actually shared that Instagram story, that my mom and I had a chance to seek forgiveness and have this conversation and hear, you know, just literally, like, I didn't know that kind of bless you.
We can cut that out of the podcast.
No, we're gonna leave it in. I didn't know that side of me. Like I was angry and I was crying. I had a panic attack. Like it was, I mean, it definitely was very therapeutic, right?
Yeah.
But that was, I think, a child Josh.
Yeah, it's a buildup of like many years of resentment.
Yeah. I would say resentment and hatred. Although I say those things, I don't think it's right. But it was hatred. Yeah. And it was because that led to a lot of my own self-hatred. that resentment towards her. And it was interesting is that I tell people I'm very open about my mental health. I'm very open about me being depressed and anxious and going to therapy and all those things. But during my therapy sessions, we had to go through this forgiveness phase, a forgiveness section of learning how to forgive other people and asking for forgiveness. I could not forgive her. And I would say my parents and I have a good relationship. I think generally people can see that.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I just couldn't get over that. Like, I just couldn't have that conversation with her.
With the things that she said.
Yeah.
I feel like that's so hard because I feel like the things that she said to you were like very like typical like Chinese culture. But I don't know, like it still doesn't make it okay to say because it will affect you in the long run.
And I think for me, I have gone through a lot of stuff in my life to like go through a lot of this processing and cultural deconstruction, like just kind of recognizing where this comes from, where this hatred comes from, and why she said these things to me. So I can get it. I get where it comes from. But like you said, doesn't mean that it's okay. And I didn't want my mom to continue that. And I wanted to let her know that it wasn't right. And
you're brave, by the way.
Like,
I don't think I have the courage to tell my mommy that she was like wrong for saying those certain things. I think usually the thing is like for children, like we're taught like not to talk back. Like you just take it. So it's a really brave conversation that you have.
I don't know, like I said in the post, I put that I wasn't proud of what I said and the things that came out of my mouth, but something beautiful came out of it. So, a conversation of healing and forgiveness and things that I never thought I would hear her say, and literally I remember talking to my dad about it like the day after. My dad cried too. So I made everyone cry, but like I think that they finally, my mom put her walls down and swallowed her pride pill and finally kind of recognized that something she did was wrong. And she might not necessarily fully believe it, but I think for her to see her kid that generally is put together,
to see you in that state and hurting so much
and like crying and panic attack and like trembling, like I think it changed her. And I'm gonna say this to whoever is listening, like there is hope for healing. There is always room for healing, and it might take a huge argument, or it might take years, or it took years for my mom and I to even have this conversation, but it is possible. And honestly, I thank God for just like putting in that moment, right, being there for us, because it wasn't just me, it wasn't just my mom, it was my dad too, and this family. And for me, being able to just talk to her as an adult, and me being able to defend myself now, and for me to be able to try to get those voices out of her head that aren't from our faith, that are culturally based, and that was the thing that was hard for me growing up, was being like, it says God loves us and that we should love our family, but the things that you say and do don't match that. And she would say things and be like, oh yeah, but it says this in the Bible. But I'm like, actually no, like, you know what I mean? Like being able to actually be like, that's not true and that's not okay to say. And for me to be like, that's something that's based in our culture, not in our faith. And so I mean, that was tough for me, but like I said, like it changed a lot. I felt so different after.
Has your family dynamic changed now?
For sure.
Moving on from that point.
Yeah.
Because she knows how you really feel about certain things. She's more aware.
Yeah. And I think, to be fair, I'm going to say that I wasn't the best son in the last couple of months. I basically was nitpicking on everything that she did, because I think it was just a response. Honestly, I think it was a bitter response to me wanting her to feel bad, or wanting her to do things right, or for me to be like, I know what's right, you're wrong, kind of thing. So I would say that it wasn't the proudest couple of months, I would say. But thankful to God that it something good came out of it, because it could have ended badly, you know. But the spirit was there, I would say, and really protected us as a family, and definitely my mom and I understand each other better, and I think she also recognizes that we're very similar, and that's why we clash a lot, you know. Yeah. What were we talking about?
I think you wanted to ask something before.
But what did you ask me? Oh, you were talking about like
your relationships with people.
Oh yes, so that was a big relationship that changed. Okay, we're gonna fast forward to when I moved over to Vancouver. So 2019, haha.
Yeah.
So Bonnie left Victoria 2017.
Oh yeah.
2017. That was hard for you. I remember that.
Yeah.
We were a close knit crew in Victoria. And
we were crying in the car as we were driving to the ferry, and you did not shed a single tear.
Yeah. Bonnie was like, yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, so I made my way here, and I can say on behalf of Bonnie that she was very happy and excited.
Sure.
But yeah, so I just want to talk about that, because this is also a completely different chapter in my life. Because I was not with my regular crew. I was with a new crew of people. So I want to divide this up into 2 parts, maybe. So like when I first came versus when I left. Okay. So when I first came, I think that I seemed fine.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you agree?
That's the time when you were in Coquitlam and I was here. So we lived really close to each other.
No, wait. No. 2018 was when I went to Coquitlam.
Oh, okay.
So 2018, 2019.
Okay.
So 2019 was when I moved over for work. 2018 was my practicum.
Okay.
So practicum was good. I think I seemed fine. I think that's when I first met everybody. And then everyone knew who I was, but I didn't know everybody because there's too many people and too many names. But then I came back in 2019, and I think I generally seemed fine. But I think I still struggled. I still remember having conversations with you and one of my good friends, you know who you are, about struggling to connect with people. Do you remember that?
Yeah. There's a lot of us in church. I think my feeling then was like, because I remember like a lot of Sundays when we go to church together, you would just be by my side, or I felt like I had to be by your side the whole time. Like I knew you're capable of making relationships, and we sometimes broke off, but we always came back together, like in a safe place. I don't remember you like really connecting with too many people on a deep level. I feel like people knew you as like, oh, you're Bonnie's friend. Yeah, that like came to church. Her Victoria friend kind of thing, but you weren't exactly part of the church, and you weren't exactly a part of the community. Yeah, so I knew it was really hard for you to connect with people.
I felt very surface level when I first came.
Definitely.
I wonder if what's interesting to me is like if you were to ask people during 2019, let's say, Josh bleep that name out. Who kind of person I was, I would say generally they would say I was a really quiet person.
Yes, definitely.
And
quiet and reserved.
And but as later on, spoilers, they realized that I was as crazy as they were. But anyways, but for example, if you were to ask people in Victoria, it'll be very different. Right?
Yeah.
And so that was like a huge like different personas, I think.
Yeah, because I think I saw what you were like in Victoria, and I also saw what you were like here. So in Victoria, like in my perception.
Wait, is it perspective?
Perspective.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
We love learning. Okay.
I also have a list.
Same.
Yeah, like you seemed more free and yourself and like open, and you were leading things and speaking. And then here, like in Vancouver, you were just so quiet. But I think I felt kind of bad because I thought it was more like a shy thing. Like you just haven't had the time to connect with people. And then also like, I don't know, your pandemic hit as well.
Yeah.
And we're all separated from each other.
Oh, that was tough.
Yeah.
That was tough because I talked about this before, but the social bubble thing. But basically, when the social bubble thing came in 2020, I wasn't part of anyone's social bubble. You remember that? Because you had your own crew and people and living situation, right? Like,
yeah.
And so like it was like it was hard because I saw you guys hang out, but I couldn't be there. But it wasn't your fault. It was just because I taught like 300 kids, and like
I know I would try to get you to come out, and then you're like, no, I'm teaching like a bunch of kids, and you're trying to be really cautious.
Yeah.
But I felt so bad because I was like, I really want you to come out to like just meet people.
Yeah.
But it was not a time when you could meet people or necessarily get close.
I think pandemic came at a time where I was starting to get close to people.
Yeah.
And then pandemic hit, and then I moved back to Victoria to teach for a couple months, and that kind of ended a lot of stuff. And then I came back for teaching 2020 September, and then didn't see anybody. So there was just like a year and a half of basically no contact with anybody. And then when you go back, so for example, like, you know, when you go to a new church, you're a new person, everyone knows you, that's like your best chance, highest rate to get to know people and connect. It literally that like time frame expired.
So short.
So short, right?
So short.
And so that was really tough. Because I was like, everyone knows who I am because I was that new person, but I don't know anybody because I didn't get the chance to connect with people. I mean, 2019 I did make friends. Like, I still talk to some of those people that I made friends with in 2019, but it was very surface level for a lot of them. Yeah.
Occasionally you did come out and we hung out with our friend.
Yeah.
Did you feel like that was still like a struggle, or like
that was okay because our trio friend, you know who you are. We keep saying that you know who you are. Hopefully you know who you are. Because I had told her quite early. I remember we hung out once, and I was just like, I need to tell you something. And then I just felt like this weird vibe that I should say something to this person. And we did, and then sorry, something distracted me. And then it was fine. So like whenever I hung out with the three of us, I felt like myself. But then whenever we were like literally to be fair, literally the three of us, whenever we three of us were in a group, we always were like together.
Oh yeah.
Right?
It was our safe spot. Our
safe spot. We were literally, after our meetup, we just hang out in one of our cars and just chat for like an hour after. But that was not bad. That was the.
Do you feel like underlying you're still hurting though? Because after we hang out, you go back into that dark space of like just living alone, being by yourself.
I think back during 2019 and 2020 before pandemic, it wasn't as bad. It was harder during pandemic, I think, because that was like a literal, you need to be by yourself, right? One thing that when I think back on 2019, 2020, which is pre-pandemic, because you guys I actually talked to you guys about my struggles with connecting, but also at that time I had a crush on somebody, and I remember going to this worship event and then telling you guys I need to leave. Do you remember that? And then we went back to our friend's place, and I cried, because I was like, just got over somebody that took me a while, but also just frustrated with this whole situation. Do you remember that conversation? Yeah. so then I guess for you, you just saw you saw me go through it again, right?
Yeah.
Like this whole idea of liking somebody, me being mad at myself for it, me feeling like it wasn't okay, me being tired of doing the same thing and knowing that it probably wouldn't work out. I'm sure for you, my friend, like you're probably like, I wish Josh didn't have to go through this. Like,
it was really hard to watch. Yeah, because I felt like I couldn't really do much about it.
Yeah.
But just like be with you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the problem with church is that you see each other all the time.
Yeah.
And then and then sometimes we hang out outside of church, but we're all in the same like group.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're just exposed to that over and over again, and having to suck up those feelings. Yeah.
Yeah.
We hope you've been enjoying our conversations and sharing in on our laughter. Have any input, questions, or any topics you want Josh to speak on? Send him a message, comment, or send a DM. Josh would love to hear from you. Make sure to spread the word on this podcast and to share with your friends.
But then, fast forward to, let's say 2021, 2022. Things changed, I think, a lot. It was still not easy. This is when things got a little bit better, like in terms of pandemic and all those things. But I started to hang out with people more. Like I started to, do sports together, hang out with people, go for food more, do all these events more. So it definitely was a shift, because I remember being like, okay, Josh, you're telling yourself that you're not close with them, but you're also not doing anything to fix that. And so then I decided to like put a little more effort into doing that again. So then 2022, 2022 was a hard year because I wanted to leave. Do you remember? I wanted to leave my job.
Yeah, you're really struggling with that. You told me that like in the almost like towards the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe it's just imposter syndrome, or like kind of just sit it through, because you're so amazing at what you do. So I was like, there's a part of me that was kind of confused of like, but you're so good. And I thought you enjoyed like teaching. So I wonder, like, I couldn't quite understand what wasn't like clicking so well. Yeah.
I think to explain my feelings then was a mixture of wasn't really teaching what I enjoyed, but also I just felt so ingenuine, like just generally in church, at work, everything.
Like you couldn't fully be completely yourself.
And I was, I think, to that point where I was so drained of doing that I just wanted to get out. And what was tough too was in May I had an opportunity to share my testimony with our fellow church friends here, and I remember not wanting to go to that retreat.
No, I thought you wanted to go.
No, did I tell you I didn't want to go? But then my dad was like, "Go." I'm like, "Okay, Dad, sorry." But I remember, because I didn't tell anybody I was leaving. It was May. It was like literally 2 months before I left. I didn't say anything to anybody, pretty much.
Only I knew.
Yeah, you and some other friends.
Yeah.
But, and I was like, you know what? I should tell them, because I feel like it would be wrong for me just to dip, you know? I already handed my resignation, all those things, was planning to move. And then as I was sharing, honestly I felt the Spirit telling me to say something. And at that time, Miss Bonnie was playing the piano and behind me. And I remember just being like, I felt this thing telling me to say something. And then I like looked at you and you just gave me a head nod.
Yeah, I think in that moment, I could sense that things were starting to get a little bit emotional. And like you were sharing about yourself, but when you gave me that look, I knew that it meant like you're doing this. You're gonna share your full like naked self. No, not just like
Yeah.
like your full the truth, I guess. Yeah. Not naked.
Naked truth.
The naked truth, right? To everybody there. And I think at that point I was like, you could finally be yourself. People can know you for who you are. So that's why I gave you the head nod. It was just like 1 second when I just knew what that look meant.
Yeah.
And then you start to share with everybody your story.
Yeah. And it was it was basically just pent up for 3 years. You know, like I knew some of these people ever since I moved. No, ever since I started my practicum in 2018. And to just be like, hey, I suffered for the last 3 years and didn't say anything about it. Was really, it was so like a weight off my shoulders, because literally after that sharing, I felt like a completely different person. And it's sad to think about it, because to think back on it, because I've experienced this before, you know, back in 2015. But fear was always there, right? And I would say the devil was always there, you know, trying not to let me say the truth. And after that, literally felt
free,
like literally all these friendships, relationships, like, because I could literally just be myself. And I remember someone saying to me, like, this was at my birthday party, and I had drank a little bit, and we were just having fun. And I remember someone being like, I like you this way, Josh. And for me, it was just like, this has always been me, but I just didn't share it, or I wasn't like this in front of you. Right? And that for me was just like, wow, like these people didn't know the kind of person I was until now. You know what I mean? And for you, you're like, yeah, that's him. Right?
I saw the change. Yeah, like you were always yourself, but it's just you had this like, I don't know, radiance. No, confidence.
Radiance.
Yeah, that's confidence to be yourself. I think before that, even when like you would have these deep conversations with different people, friendships that even like I didn't know about, but I always felt like the part of you was always reserved. Yeah, and now you can just say anything you want. Light the place on fire, right? So
wait.
No, I'm just kidding, but like you can just finally say the things that you wanted to say and just be vulnerable. That's the word I'm looking for. And
it's weird, because it's not like me saying whatever I want to say isn't like anything mean or like in your face or like judgmental. It's literally just me just saying stuff, like just being myself,
genuine,
just being genuine. And that's for me, it's just like, for me, for some reason I just thought I couldn't act a certain way or say certain things because I would be scared if someone found out. And right,
you're right. It's not that you said anything different,
exactly,
right? But I think it's just the way that you feel.
And I mean, it was hard for me to actually, when I left, because for ever since the school year started in 2021, I was so ready to leave. I was in that mental space of like, get me out of Vancouver. But then after May, it was like I wanted to stay. And you know what? Like, to be honest, I mean, I need this time. Like, I needed this time and space to put this podcast together, to rest, quote unquote rest, and to do a lot of other things that I don't think I would have been able to do if I was still in Vancouver and working. And do I miss here? Yeah, I do, for sure. I miss the community that I built and the friendships I made and all that stuff. But it kind of, well, how I see it is like, now I know I have a second home, and I can always come back if I need to or want to, right? I mean, it's so hard to see y'all hang out, Like, honestly, like, it's not the easiest thing, but at the same time, I'm like, I know that if I came back, I can just,
It'd be like you never left.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a cool feeling for sure. Yeah.
I'm proud of you for that.
Oh.
Yeah. I see you, like, you're just so, I don't know. You're different, like very happy now.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you finally have the time to rest and take care of yourself. I think you spent so long taking care of other people's shit. A lot of it was mine, but like, you know, you're holding a lot of, like, people would tell you things, you're holding a lot of like the things that they share to you, but then it's so nice that you can be yourself now fully, and I think rest is important. You can be your creative self now. Yeah,
I think so too. I do feel different, right? And which is the awesome thing. Well, yeah. Do you have any questions for me? I remember asking you to show me questions.
yeah, so many. Oh,
It's okay. So I'll still
Okay.
pick up. Yeah.
ooh, okay. So, is there a part of you that still mourns when you see or hang out with the people that you used to like? Okay, because the reason why I asked that is because I feel like with the people that you shared with, you're still, like, you were really good friends with them before, right?
Yeah.
And you share with them how you're feeling, and you're still friends now, but like obviously because of like all the history, like the friendship has like changed.
Yeah.
So like even when you still see them around.
Yeah.
So do you still feel like a part of you mourns that it did not work out?
Yes and no. Generally, the people that I've liked, we're not close anymore. And actually, for me, it's a bit of frustration because I mean, you know, I don't find it easy to make friends with guys, just because of rejection and all those things. But the people that I get really close to generally are people that I like.
Yeah.
And that, for me, one, because it's not easy to make me to make guy friends, that's like another thing, right? That's like oh wow, I'm able to connect to this person, but because I like them, it changes, right?
Yeah. So it's not just a relationship thing or just like rejection thing, but it's also like a loss of friendship.
Yeah. And because of these feelings, I know that I cannot be as emotionally open with them. And I mean, there are people that I've liked that I'm actually good friends with still. Like, we still catch up and chat, but generally those people that I did like in the past, I'm not as close to anymore. Like, just the normal happy birthdays, how are you, when we see each other, like, you know. And I mean, it is annoying. It is really
I can imagine
hard.
it's frustrating.
But I do mourn it. I do mourn those moments of those friendships, because it does shape me a lot, right? It does shape the kind of person I am, and I'll always be grateful for those. It's just so hard. Yeah, I say so, but I know that those people I can message and call up anytime.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that for sure.
Yeah, I want to ask because I never asked. what was a day like when you released like this pod?
Oh,
Because I tried to message you, but I also knew I sent a very short message because I was like, I feel like there's so many messages that would come in.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to like pester you too much. So I kind of tried to leave you alone on that day because I'm sure there was a lot going through in your mind.
Okay. How did I feel generally?
Yeah.
So leading up to it, I had many panic, anxiety, anxious episodes and depressive episodes, and like a lot of doubt. I remember just feeling like, should I do this? is this the right thing to do? What happens if relationship change? Because I don't want things to change. I don't want these good relationships to change. But then I remember having people tell me and me reminding myself that like the people that care will stay, and those are the people who are important, right? And so, and the people that don't care or don't like it,
they weren't meant to be in your life.
Meant to be. They didn't make the cut, you know. So that was tough. Like basically July and August, I felt so tired all the time, but because I was so scared of this project. So when the day came, for those who don't know, I actually posted it and then left for a day.
You just like disappeared off the face of the earth. I have no idea where you went.
Honestly, taking a day off social media is very nice. I'm just gonna say that. I highly recommend it. But it was because I went out with one of my good friends, and bless you again. I went out with one of my good friends, and we just did a lot of stuff together. We actually went on a 5-hour hike.
Oh my god.
We barely had enough water. I had half that bottle.
Wow.
Because he forgot how hard it was.
Huh.
I fell down the hill 3 times. I bruised my leg.
Oh my god.
It was great. It actually got my mind off a lot of stuff, to be honest.
Great.
So the day was very chill. It was very like, I sat in a hot tub looking at the starry night sky. Like literally there's no lights around. It was beautiful for like 3 hours. And what was interesting, I don't know if I said this. Did I? Maybe. I said this, Catherine. But like that day I had gone to my friend's place to pick him up. And I was sitting at the park. And that's one of the places where I've told somebody for the first time.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
You told me that.
And so it was a weird like circle moment of me being like, wow, look where I am now. And so it definitely felt very freeing to release this podcast trailer and podcast, but I was as equally terrified. But it wasn't like I wasn't scared for my life. I just didn't want to accept the reality of how people would react. I knew that most people would be fine. I knew that.
Do you think people treated you differently?
Oh wow!
Yeah, especially in the church. Yeah, they like, oh, you released this podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, there's tea.
I can't say a lot of things, but
okay.
I would say majority.
Yeah,
people literally just let you know, what up, Josh, or like for example, one of some of the sweeter moments. Let's start with the positives. Always start with the positives, folks. Okay. I would run into people like in around town or at events, and they would hug me. And just for me, just like, hey, how's it going? And they would be like, I'm so proud of you. Congratulations. Like people that I don't typically have those kind of conversations with. Those were like, that's why I'm doing this, is because I want to share a story to help people. And they understood. They recognized that I went through a lot of pain, right? So generally, I would say people were fine. There are people that have voiced their opinions, whether it's to a friend, to me, or to me, basically being like, love you, but I don't agree. Which I already assumed would happen. Like, I already kind of knew that would happen. But for me, it's like a mixture of...
Like, they don't agree with your life choices? Or
just
like,
me, I guess. Okay. Just my whole being.
Okay.
But like for me, it's like one of those... And I mean, to be fair, like it's only been 2 months? No, almost 2 months. 1.5 months. So I feel like if someone were to tell me that later on, I would probably respond in a different way that I did back when that person confronted me, because I was just like, okay, that's it. I like, for
you feel
me,
stronger and more grounded.
Yeah. I feel like later on I would feel like I would be able to respond back in the, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you at least think about it and research about it, because a lot of people, their beliefs are just either someone tells them or they just read just the 6 verses that are in the Bible, but don't actually look at the context and stuff, you know. And so for me, it's like, okay, but I hope you actually do think about it and like, you know, I don't know what's the word when you read the Bible and you
Study.
Yeah. I haven't studied for a long time, but like just study the word. And like for me, it's like, what is the truth of our faith? Like figure that out first, because
some people just pinpoint only those verses and they're like,
yeah.
That's it.
You know that, I mean, this is the last episode that will be coming out soon. You know that the word homosexuality is like less than 200 years old?
I did not know that.
So where did that come from? What word did they actually use back then? Anyways, that's something you could listen to the last episode with Randy. Right? And so for me, I just hope that you don't just say this without actually thinking about it or reading about it. Because that's, I think, as equally wrong.
Yeah. I can't clap. No, I can't clap. It's not loud enough.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've told you this, but like I think people will treat me differently. I think that some of the older generation might not say it to me. I probably have said things or gossiped. I feel like I might have not been invited to certain things, but like in the end, I don't know.
I think in the bigger picture, right? That I don't know. You're just being you. Yeah, and there's nothing that you can do.
Just being me. And like I think for me, it's like this is more spoken towards our faith. Love people, like just love them. Like that's for me what's most frustrating is you say that I love you, but I don't agree with you, and I don't agree with your being. That's in a way hatred, you know. And for me, it's the truth and the foundation of our faith is love. So is what you're saying and what you're doing and what you're gossiping about really love? Yeah, that's for me. It was hard because Christianity has had a lot of different perspectives and history, good and bad, right? And I just want to be a good example of what it is to be a Christian, you know, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, I'm really inspired by that because I never heard you or like felt that you ever rejected the church despite all these things and the things that you've been through.
We are all human.
Walked away from your faith.
That's all I'm gonna say. And I think it took me a while to understand and accept that, but that's why I'm a Christian, right? Because I recognize myself. I recognize that I'm not perfect and I will never be perfect. Yeah. Any other questions for me?
Ooh, last question.
Ooh.
Okay. So now that everything is out, do you think that from this point on, you will ever feel like that fear again, or like, I don't know. You know what I mean? The things that used to hold you back.
Hold me back.
Yeah.
I think that fear will always play a part in my life. I think in anyone's life, I think fear is always going to be there. I feel like maybe it might be more difficult with different people. I feel like if I were to meet people around our age, I feel less scared to just say it. But maybe with people older generation, maybe it'd be harder, just because I don't know what kind of upbringing they had. But to be fair, there are people who are our age or younger who also are not the most loving, I would say. No one specifically in mind, just saying in general. But I would say I still have some fear. But the difference is that I am confident that I am confident that Jesus loves me and God loves me, and I am confident that I have my support system, right? And so those kind of stable foundations of my life are there. That this one little interaction, although it'd probably be sad still if they rejected me or whatever, wouldn't change.
You got a whole army of people
I have a whole
behind
army of people. Yeah. Right. So yes and no to your question. I have a question for you.
Oh man. Okay.
What was the hardest thing about being my friend?
This question. I think the hardest thing was there are times where I wasn't able to be right by your side, and I wouldn't really know how you were doing. Yeah. It's not until like we're actually like together that you would share. But I wish I was able to like speak to you more during the times that we were apart, or like even during pandemic when like we didn't live that far apart, but like we speaking online was so much different from actually speaking in person. Yeah. And it was really hard to see you like go through different phases of like liking people or like feeling that fear, but I couldn't exactly empathize entirely with how you were feeling, and I couldn't offer any advice to pull you out of that mindset. But I knew that I like really wanted you to find like happiness and be comfortable with yourself. Yeah.
There's one thing that I learned that was like another added factor to me liking people, was that me liking somebody was especially difficult when we knew it wasn't going to work. That we knew that they weren't attracted to the same sex, you know?
Yeah, and yet you still like them, but you're trying to like,
I'm trying not
it's
to.
never going to work.
Yeah. I never really thought about that extra layer until I think recently. But yeah, you never know. Those kind of situations, good songs can come out of them.
Taylor Swift them.
Taylor Swift. Listen, streamed A Bad Call by JP. It's on the Spotify right now. Yeah. I mean, even coming back now, sitting on this floor, I feel different. I feel excited to see people tomorrow. You know, like, and that's, I think, a change from before. Of me being like, I don't want to hang out with people, or let's hang out just us two or us three or whatever. Yeah, so I'm excited.
I'm excited for you. I'm excited to see how far you go.
How far I go?
How far you go.
What song is that?
Moana.
Yeah, I think that's it for today's episode. Bonnie and I's friendship is very interesting. Is whenever we take photos and stuff, I always give the judgmental, neutral face, but I like to end each episode.
Is this hard for you?
This is really tough.
This is really hard to
This
tell.
is the hardest thing I've done all week.
Okay.
By saying that I love you, Bonnie.
That's the first time I ever heard you say that.
I appreciate you. And thank you for being on the pod today.
I appreciate you, Josh.
Oh, and we hug it out.
I love you too.
Oh, friendship. Peace.
See ya.
Was that weird for you?
Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of The Open Closet. Thank you to Bonnie for joining us this week. We hope you laughed, gained some insight, or simply just enjoyed listening to us chat. Just know that you're beautifully and wonderfully made in God's image. God loves you. We love you. See you next time.